Welcome to the Godly Playroom at First United Church. My name is Ruth Lomax, and it is my pleasure and privilege to be part of the storytelling team here through the peoples of First United in this great Godly Playroom, but offering stories out to you folks wherever you find us. We are coming to you from this room at First United in Wetaskiwin, Alberta, serving in the county and the city of Wetaskiwin. I wonder how you are. It's almost the end of October, which means Halloween in many people's calendars, and I'm guessing there's some excitement and some wondering about how to be safe and to still have some fun. The church keeps time a little differently. We are getting ever closer to the end of the color green, that great green and growing season that follows Pentecost. The days are getting shorter, it's getting cooler, and the light is less and less as we get closer and closer to Advent. There are lots of different ways to get ready and things that you might want to get ready. You might want to have a candle that you can light, whether it's a flame candle or a battery candle to be on the safe side. You might want to have something ready for responding to the story. Sometimes people like to pause the video and do some artwork or some journaling or have some conversation amongst their household. There are lots of different ways that help us go deeper into the story and help us come closer to God. You might also want to have some materials ready for the feast that we share together. But for now, let's take a deep breath, sniffing in whatever flowers there might still be at this time of year, and breathing out, blowing out those candles. We have a lot of birthdays coming up in our house. We just passed one and there are 3 more in the next few weeks. So lots of birthday cake, lots of candles. And another deep breath. Are you ready? Once there was someone who said such amazing things and did such wonderful things that people began to follow him. And the more they followed him, the more they wondered who he was. And so one time they just had to ask, "Who are you?" One time when they asked him that question, he said, "I am the light." And the light grows whenever we share it. I'm going to put the candle back up on the shelf and get the story materials ready. You might want to pause the video and do what you need to be ready. You can do that at any time, obviously, but sometimes it helps if we can set aside this time just to be together with one another and with God. This story is called The Ark and the Tent. You'll find this story on the top shelf of the sacred stories from the Old Testament. It's in between the story that Jackie told last week about the 10 best ways to live and a story about the Ark and the temple. Today's story is about the Ark and the tent. And we also need the desert box. Here is the desert box. The desert is a dangerous place. It hardly ever rains, so not much grows. And without food and water, everything dies. When the wind blows, the sands change their shape. People can get lost. Some never come back. During the day, the sun is so hot it scorches your skin, and the sand stings when it hits. At night, it gets very cold, and people wear extra clothing just to protect themselves from the sun and the sand. The desert is a dangerous place. People only go into the desert if they have to. The people of God were in the desert. God had given Moses the 10 best ways to live, and Moses had given them to the people. And the people loved them so much, they wanted to be able to carry them with them wherever they went. They thought they would help them remember and show them how to get close to God, perhaps guide them on their way. So God told them to build a box called an ark. They could put the 10 best ways, sometimes known as the 10 commandments, inside. They'd cover the box with gold and put poles on the outside so that they could carry it with them wherever they went. But one doesn't just walk up to something as precious as the 10 best ways. The people wanted a way to get ready. They wondered what they could do. So God suggested they make an altar for burning incense. The people could walk through the sweet-smelling fragrance, and that would help them remember God's presence and be ready to come close to the ark. But that wasn't quite enough. And so God had them make a table and put 12 loaves of bread on it, and a menorah, which is a lampstand that has 7 branches. And people could walk between the table of the bread of presence and the menorah. They could smell that sweet smelling fragrance, and that would help them get ready. But that still wasn't enough. So the people decided to build a tent that would go around the ark. And the incense altar, and the table of the bread of presence, and the menorah. Inside the tent, they built the Holy of Holies, which was a separate place just for the ark. And only the priest could go into the tent. And in those days, only men could be priests. The outer covering of the tent had many layers, and these aren't quite exactly like them, but they're close enough to help us remember. The first one was made of linen, with images of cherubim woven in gold and red. The second one was made of goat's hair, woven together. Next came a layer of ram skins dyed red. And the outer layer was made of goat skins turned into leather. But this still wasn't enough. So the people made a large altar for sacrifices, and they set it up outside the tent. There was also a great bowl made of bronze called a laver that the priests could wash in to help them get ready for prayer, and that too was placed outside the tent. But that's not all. The priests began to wear special clothing to help them get ready. But that wasn't all. Next, they built a fence made out of cloth that would go all the way around the tent and set apart this whole holy space, which they called the tabernacle. When everything was finished, Moses blessed the tent and the ark. And God gave Aaron and his sons the responsibility of being the priests who would look after the tent and the ark and the other items. And the Levites, who were one of the tribes of Israel, helped look after and carried everything when they traveled. And then they helped with worship. God gave Aaron a prayer to bless everything. May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May God's favor rest upon you and grant you peace. I wonder what you liked best about this story. I wonder what the most important part of this story is. I wonder if there's any part of this story we could leave out and still have all the story that we need. I wonder, what part of this story is especially for you today? Or where you are in this story? There are a lot of things here to put away. And if I pay attention to how I put them away, then if you happen to be in the room at some point and want to work with this story, it'll be ready for you. So there is the scroll with the prayer, God's blessing. And the priest with their special clothes. Lots of priests still wear special clothes today. I like to get dressed up as much as the next person, but that's not usually how I get ready to come close to God. The altar for sacrifices, and the laver with all the water. They have poles on them too. Can't imagine having to carry them around though. Made of bronze. Think about all those people that don't like hauling their suitcase, and they had to put wheelies on all the suitcases now so people can travel easier. But wheelies wouldn't work very good in the desert. And then there is the tent with all of its coverings. Walls of the tent, that special place, the Holy of Holies. And the menorah, and the table with the bread of presence. One for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. And that bread was fresh every week whenever they could do that. And the incense altar. Many churches still use incense, and different faiths use incense. Sometimes as a way of reminding us that our prayers rise to wherever God is. Sometimes just inviting us to delight in that beautiful fragrance. And the Ark of the Covenant. It holds many precious things. I wonder how you come close to God. I'll invite you to get out your work, or to pause the video if you want to take some time to do that and work on your own. I think I might have a look around our building at some of the different ways we get ready to come close to God. And you're welcome to join me on that virtual tour if you want to. And then we'll come back and say our prayers and share our feast. One of the ways we help people get ready to come into our building is to make it accessible. So if you come in by the parking lot door, even in a wheelchair or with crutches, it's pretty easy to get in. And there are doors that you can push the button. But even before that, there's the rainbow on our sidewalk that says everybody's welcome here. Whether you're male or female or transgendered, two-spirit, queer, in between, unsure. And we have the ribbons on the fence with the Every Child Matters, which is another way we have of saying people are important here, and we want to honor and live with respect with all our relations. Unfortunately, not everybody's agreed with us about the rainbow, and so people have put spray paint on it more than once, even though we've repainted. But we still believe this is one of the ways we help others get ready to enter. So let's go inside and see what else we do to help us get ready. This is another threshold, a place for us to pause and recognize that we are crossing over from one way of being into being with God. Think of it, maybe this is like our tent, and you've been in the tabernacle, and now you're getting ready to come closer to God. But I imagine God's in all those places. It's just another way, though, of helping people get settled in so they're ready to worship and to be with one another. Part of our getting ready includes welcoming people, singing birthday and anniversary greetings to people, listening to some music, or maybe visiting with the people at the other end of our pew. There's some information, if there are specific announcements, but also about acknowledging the land and the treaty upon which we are gathered, the copyright. All of those things are about acknowledging how we worship and what matters, and that we are honoring all those relationships that go into making worship happen. Lots of different ways of getting ready. And then at some point, we take a deep breath, just as we do in the Godly Playroom, and someone will light a candle and remind us that the light grows whenever it is shared. Another way that sometimes I like to get ready to come close to God is to read a book. Sometimes what other people's words and images have to say or connect with me in certain ways that opens me up to God's presence. This is a book called Many Ways by Shelley Rotner and Sheila M. Kelly, and it reminds us that there are many ways that people come close and share their beliefs or have an experience with the holy. There are children who go to school together, who work together and play together, and their families enjoy many of the same activities. But families may have different beliefs about God. They pray and worship in their own manner. Their different ways have different names: Buddhism, Judaism, Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, Sikhism. They have different places to pray or worship, like churches, temples, mosques, or shrines. There they practice their beliefs and learn the stories and sayings of their great teachers. Books tell what their great teachers taught. Symbols remind people of their beliefs. Sometimes music calls people to prayer. We like to sing in our church too, and that often helps us get ready. Sometimes music expresses joy and thankfulness. All of us have special holidays with special food. All families enjoy their own ways of celebrating and practicing their beliefs. All enjoy the beauty of this world and celebrate the important times of life. All their great teachers have taught the same lesson: to love and care for one another and for our beautiful earth. And whenever we do those things, we are in the presence of the holy. I wonder how you get ready to be with God. welcome back. So, I wonder if some of the things that we showed you or talked about as part of our getting ready for worship was new to you, or perhaps something that you didn't know why we did that. Maybe you have your own ways of getting ready. What matters is that we take the time. Because sometimes it takes us a little bit of time to get settled into a space where we are open to God. I think God's always there. We just aren't always as tuned in as we could be. Maybe a little bit like finding that internet connection on our Wi-Fi sometimes. But God's always there. So I've sanitized my hands and I have a little bit of crisp here and some water. Whew. Always gets a little bit thirsty working in the desert. And I'm very grateful to have some water. So let's take a moment and give thanks. Whether you call it saying grace or you just pause the video and offer some gratitudes on your own. You might choose to offer prayers out loud or in silence or to sing them. And when you say Amen, then the next person knows it's their turn. So I'll squeeze your hand and we'll start. Holy and gracious God, we give thanks for this beautiful day, for time together, for the long stretch of warm days and sunlight that have been part of this beautiful fall, for the opportunity to be together and tell stories, for the many different ways there are of coming close to you, and for the gift of your presence always. Amen. Amen. So I wonder what you have for feast. Sometimes we think we need a lot, but we don't really. Just a few things to nibble on. I wonder how you get ready in your household when you're going to share a feast. Are there special dishes that you use? Or maybe favorite recipes? Maybe the house gets cleaned. In our house, that's always one of the first things I like to do is get everything cleaned up. But even before that, I've probably made a bit of a list of groceries that I'll need. I invite people if we're able to have people in. And I start working back. I know it's going to be taking this long to cook a turkey and it takes me this long to make these things, and I try to figure out when I need to start what so that it all can be ready close to the same time. Although the running joke in our house is, doesn't matter how careful I am about the math, the turkey's always ready early. Some people I know, and sometimes I do, like to say little prayers as they're getting a meal ready. To remember the guests that are coming, to bless the food, or just to put good loving thoughts in as well as the ingredients. I wonder if we all took a little more time to get ready. Would we be more careful about what we say to others? Maybe less tempted to just blurt out something hurtful. I know some days it feels like my getting ready takes more time than whatever I'm doing. Like when I'm getting ready to tell a godly play story. There are so many things that happen before I get to this part of being with you. But it's worth it. Because it enables us to be together in good ways. It enables us to create space, not only in our stories, but in our response time and in our feasting for some conversation, for the spirit to enter in and play. And that's a blessing. And my mom used to always say that anything worth doing was worth doing well and taking the time to be ready. Oh, well, I am ready to change the light. If you need more time to finish your feast, go ahead and pause the video and come on back whenever you're ready. So watch what happens when I change the light. Right now it's just in this one time and place. But when we change the light, it spreads out to fill this whole room. And it will find its way to wherever you are. It'll go with you, just as it goes with me. So watch what happens. Did you see it? It spreads out until it gets thinner and thinner. You just about can't see it anymore. I can still smell it though. It's not quite a sweet smelling cloud of fragrance, but there's definitely an aroma of that smoke whenever we change the light. So whatever this week holds for you, know that God is already there, ready and waiting to be part of it. Be well. Keep one another safe until we meet again.